Hey everyone, welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast. We're presented by Nissan, Reuben Frank, and Dave Zangaro. Rube, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Beautiful Thursday.
It is a beautiful Thursday. It's also the start of March Madness. Are you a big college hoops guy?
Oh yeah, I don't do a bracket, but I never have. But I love this time of year. Sure, I I think I was watching some tournament last night. I don't even know what it was. I don't think it was the NIT. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'll watch any game, anytime, anywhere.
I love these first 2 days. We're recording this on Thursday at around 2 o'clock. So if at any point during this podcast you see my eyes kind of wander, it might be a game on behind me.
Hey, I was there in Houston when Villanova won the buzzer beater to win the national championship. I was courtside. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It is kind of a bummer that the local teams right now are not, doing much.
No,
It's a lot more fun when they are.
Yeah, I think Villanova is just 3 straight years out of the tournament. I believe they fired their coach in the last day or two. And although they still have a game left in some tournament somewhere with an interim coach, but it's kind of Temple's down, St. Joe's is down. They lost last night, maybe in the NIT. Drexel had a good season, but they're down. Penn hasn't won the Ivy. I don't know the last time they won the Ivy. So yeah, tough time for Philly hoops.
Yeah, tough sledding, but this is a football podcast. We have a lot of football to talk about, Rube. Our last podcast, we got not a lot of nice comments and emails from people about the Brandon Graham episode. We appreciate that. It was a unique one to do because he was such an integral part of the team and the city for so long. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And if you haven't watched that one, go back and watch it. If you haven't seen Brandon Graham's farewell speech and press conference, I think it's worth your time. It'll take you a little bit of time to get through it, but if you're an Eagles fan, I think it's must see stuff.
Yeah, and I was really wowed by his speech, and we talked about this the other day, but I thought he just nailed it, and it was emotional, it was funny, it really captured who he is and what he's been through, and he touched on everything, including locker rooms closed. So it was it was a lot of fun being there.
It certainly was. And we have a bunch to get into today. We have questions from you guys coming up in a little bit. We talked to a bunch of some new players, some returning players on Zoom press conferences. So some interesting things there. New rule proposals came out. We want to get into that. But we want to start with kind of the passing of the torch from Brandon Graham to now Lane Johnson, who is the longest tenured Eagle, came here in 2013. He's one of the longest tenured athletes in the city of Philadelphia. And it's nice for Lane now to kind of get a little bit of time on his own in a way. He's going to miss having Brandon Graham around and Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox. But I think for a lot of years, Lane has flown under the radar from that perspective because those other guys have been around. But now for, the next 2 or 3 years, all eyes are going to be on Lane Johnson and him wrapping up what could be a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it. And I think as good as Lane, as great as Lane has been, I think Kelsey in particular, overshadowed him. I think some of that was, obviously he's a great player. They're both great players, but Kelsey people gravitated toward him. Media gravitated toward him. You see now everything he's involved in, which I can't even name half of it. He's involved in everything. And Lane's not the quietest guy in the world, but compared to Kelsey, I think everybody is. And so I do think that he was kind of in Kelsey's shadow for a long time. More to do with their personalities than play on the field. Because Lane Johnson I think he's the best tackle in football. And I think he has been for several years now since he got that ankle healthy. So he's the last man standing. He said the other day when we talked to him, and he's going to be a little lonely with those guys gone, but I think he'll really seamlessly take on some of those responsibilities as the older guy. He loves taking younger players under his wing and just talking to them about football and non-football. And I think he'll expand that kind of leadership role. I don't like the word leadership, but just being a mentor and and guiding younger players and being there for him. I think it's something he'll naturally continue to do and maybe magnify that role.
Sorry to go off that. Why don't you like the word leadership?
I don't think it has any value anymore. It's just one of those words that people throw around. You're going to be more of a leader this year. I don't know. I think it's lost. I don't know really what it means anymore. I think it's kind of become a cliche, I guess. But I do think Lane has a lot of really important qualities that make the people around him better.
Yeah, multiple-time captain, voted on by his teammates. It is amazing, though. Like, you wrote a column about the three guys who have retired now, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelce, and BG the other day. Just that type of run is so historic. It's so rare. And then they have a fourth guy who likely won't play anywhere else and has another career like this. It's just amazing. And like, these are the pillars of the organization.
Pillars of the organization during like the richest time in franchise history. And you'll be impressed by, I spent about 2.5 hours coming up with a list of every player in NFL history that's played 12 or more years with just one team, and made a Pro Bowl. And then I sorted that list by team to see if any other team has had three guys together of that caliber for that long. And since free agency started, the answer is no. And you have to go back to the 80s to find the last time before it wasn't even that common before free agency, which started in 92. The Broncos are the last team that had three guys who were together that long. It was Elway, Dennis Smith, the great safety, and someone else. But and before that, it was a team in the 70s. So I mean, this is really, so to do it after free agency when it's so hard to keep one player around who's at that level just because of the cap. Players want to go get more money. To keep three of them together who were not just here, but just great players. All three of them were, Kelce and Lane, multiple. I think Lane's got 6 Pro Bowls now. Kelce had 7. BG had the 1, but obviously just a huge part of the franchise for a long time. It's incredibly rare. It hasn't happened since the start of free agency. And there'll be a fourth member of that club at some point. It really is. And I just hope people understand how rare it is to have guys like this to stay together and really be the heart of a franchise for a decade. And Kelce and Fletch weren't part of the second Super Bowl championship, but I think it's clear that their impact had an impact on the team. I mean, obviously Kelce with Cam and Fletch with Jalen Carter, but even more than that. I mean, their impact on this franchise goes way beyond anything you can measure. So they were still a part of the championship, even though they weren't players on this team. But yeah, I mean, 4 guys who've been together for a decade during a period where the team went to 3 Super Bowls. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, and it took a lot of different things for that to happen, right? It wasn't like it was always going to be this way. You look at Brandon Graham's career, and there were a few times we thought he was going to be gone. And you look at Kelce, I mean, before Doug got here, really, like we were starting to think that maybe he was on his last legs, and then he has this resurgent second half of his career. Fletcher, I guess, was always kind of the constant.
He was. Do you remember sitting in that casino room when the trade deadline was there, and Fletcher was tweeting out stuff like thanking Philadelphia, and like we thought he was getting traded, which was a real possibility. But you're right. Yeah, I mean, especially BG. I mean, we thought he'd agreed to contract terms with the Giants that one year in free agency. Lane never hit free agency. But yeah, it takes a lot of juggling on the part of the GM and a real commitment on the part of the owner to keep guys like that and keep them together. It's not easy to do.
And I think it also speaks to patience a little bit, at least with 3 of these guys. And honestly, it was a good observation from our Birds Huddle producer, Mike Mulhern, the other day. We were in the office just chatting about it. And he was like, 3 of these guys had like something going on early in their career that probably lowered the price on them a little bit. Like with with BG, obviously his career didn't get off to a great start. He didn't get that like huge second contract. Kelsey was he started early in his career, but he didn't really become a star center until much later. And then Lane had the suspensions, 2 suspensions in his first few years. Like that changes things too. And Fletcher was the only one that, he was a first round pick, came in immediately, played well, and was a good player. But those other 3, like there were extenuating circumstances that probably allowed them to stick around. And then you give credit to the organization for being so patient with them and allowing them to develop, or in Lane's case, kind of get over something that was holding him back in his career.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think it's a point that, whenever there's a first round pick that's not doing so well. And we talked the other day about BG was always the guy, well, BG did this and that. But I mean, it's true with Nolan. It's true with a lot of first round picks. It's really hard to come in. And I mean, even Fletcher, I think only started 8 or 9 games his rookie year. He wasn't a full-time starter year 2. So, I think you look at the jump Jalen Carter made from year 1 to year 2, and patience is so important in these things. And you see some teams give up on guys after a year or 2, and sometimes it's the right thing, not always. You see guys have that second career somewhere else with a team that believes in them. And I mean, Mekhi Becton is a great example of that. And I mean, I understand why the Jets gave up on him, and it was more than a couple of years, but there's if a guy's drafted in the first half of the first round, there's usually a pretty good reason for it. Now, some guys never pan out. I mean, the fireman, that dude never became anything. But in most cases, I think guys find their way, and having a team that believes in them and sees that talent, even though they're not producing, that's a rare skill, and it's something that this team has done repeatedly.
Yeah, and you look at Lane now; it's hard to imagine. Like here he is, the last one standing. He'll go into year 13 in 2025. He's 35 years old, but I mean, he's playing so well. He talked a little bit. I asked him if, being the last guy standing, so to speak, makes him reflective. And he's like, man, being 35 makes me reflective and thinking about where he's come and where he is in his career. But I thought another cool thing he talked about the other day was being this deep in his career and like really embracing the challenge of that, like being an old guy in the NFL and wanting to take care of his body enough to kind of defy the odds and still be this good.
Yeah, that was really interesting. He really opened up a lot. And, he said in his mind, he'd like to play. He's under contract for 3 more years through 27. He'd like to play those 3 years. And he said, obviously, at this point, you take it 1 year at a time. But in his mind, that's what he wants to do. And he said, if he stays healthy, there's no reason he can't do that. And he also said, and we talked about his ankle issues. I think he had 2 surgeries. He had the tightrope. That was like a 3-year ordeal. Like that really was a long running thing. And he played through a lot of it. Wasn't quite the same player we were used to seeing, but and he said, when I was dealing with the ankle stuff, like I thought, he indicated he thought his days as that elite right tackle were over and that his body was breaking down. And he's been healthy now for a good number of years and really enjoying, kind of like Kelsey in that I think he's playing his best football in his 30s, like well into his 30s. I don't know if he was ever better than he was this past year, Dave. I mean, he played so well at such a consistently high level. But I think I added up, he's played 3,300 regular season snaps since 2019, allowed 5 sacks, regular season passing snaps. So many pass plays he's blocked for. He's allowed 10 quarterback hits and 5 sacks. Those are Pro Football Focus numbers. So other numbers might be off by a little bit, but I mean, the level of consistency, he said, I knew early in my career I had to get stronger. He mentioned Ryan Kerrigan. We kept beating him, which was really funny, who became his teammate briefly. Yeah, it was really cool to talk to him. I think any Eagles fan should be really I guess relieved. Just the notion that he's not thinking about retiring. He's not thinking, "Oh, this is my last year." I mean, after talking to him for a bit on, I guess that was on Tuesday. I mean, he's as committed and determined as he's ever been, and retirement's the last thing on his mind, judging from that conversation.
Yeah, and look, if he plays 3 more years at the level he's been playing, like that's the Hall of Fame stamp. And I think that's, maybe it's unrealistic to expect that for a player who's going to be 35, 36, 37 in the years of this contract extension. But I'm kind of amazed he's already been like playing at this level for this long. So it wouldn't shock me to see him continue it. And we've seen other tackles play really deep into their careers. I mean, Jason Peters' level dropped off a little bit. I think he had more trouble just like avoiding those little injuries. But like Trent Williams has played at a really high level. Andrew Whitworth kind of got better with age. Like there are other tackles recently in the NFL who have been able to extend their careers and play at a high level. So I don't see why Lane can't do that too.
Yeah, and he's really aware of what it takes to continue playing at a high level. He takes great care of himself. He spoke really highly of the Eagles, training staff and the impact that they've had. He really works on his nutrition, and all that stuff. And I mean, we haven't seen a drop off. I mean, at some point, maybe there will be. We haven't seen any signs of it, and I think it was the same with Kelsey. You just didn't see any sign that he wasn't the same player. So I think Lane got ripped off in the All-Pro voting this past year. I think he was the best right tackle in the league. That stuff matters when you're trying to get in the darn Hall of Fame. They look at first-team All-Pros. He's got a couple of them. He's got 6 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowl rings, and 2 All-Pros. And, man, if he makes 2 more Pro Bowls, that's 8. I believe that would be the most in Eagles history. And there wasn't a Pro Bowl before. I don't know. I think it was like the late 40s. But
Jason Peters had 7. Is that right?
Yeah, and Kelsey had 7.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be tough to keep him out, and it helps that he'll retire a couple years after Kelsey, so they won't be competing. And JP. I mean, there's a real possibility. I don't know if it's a great possibility. There's a real possibility 3 of Jeff Stoutland's guys, 3 of his offensive linemen will end up in Canton.
I think that's more likely than not.
I mean, I think JP is close to a lock. I think Kelsey's a lock. I think Lane still has some work to do, but yeah, I wonder how the suspensions are going to affect him when his name comes up. There are 2 of them. One was for I think the second one was 10 games.
Yeah, in 2016.
That was a decade ago. But the guys that do this, the voters, they're old timers, they're old school. They're I just don't know how they'll look at. I don't know if anybody who's ever had a banned substance suspension has ever gone in the Hall of Fame. It'd be an interesting thing to check on. I'm not sure about that, but I mean, maybe the fact that he's played clean for 8, 9 straight years now, right?
Yeah, and every accolade he's gotten has come after that second suspension.
Right.
So it's not like, he had a bunch of All-Pros or Pro Bowls stacked up while there were questions about what was in his body.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, certainly it wouldn't affect how I voted, but when you look at the guys that vote, it's a concern of mine. And it's something I think it's something that's going to come up. We'll see how that affects them. But you watch him play, that's a Hall of Fame right tackle right there.
Yeah. And look, if he plays 3 more years, this Eagles team is going to be good. He has a chance at a 3rd ring. He'd be the only position player on this team to even have a chance at a 3rd ring. Jake Elliott's the only other player who has a chance at it, unless they bring Rick back next year or something. Like, yeah, I think that like if he gets that 3rd ring, then it's even harder to deny him.
Agree. Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to him on Locker Cleanout Day, and he was talking about the 17. He's like, yeah, when we won the Super Bowl, and he's like, the first one, and we both just started laughing. And he's like, "Yeah, who would have thought I'd be like explaining which Super Bowl I meant?"
I saw a really funny tweet the other day. It was the photo of Brandon Graham at his retirement presser with both Lombardis flanking him. And you're like, man, if you were to show this to someone 10 years ago, they'd be like, what the heck happened?
Yeah, imagine that. You never know. It was cool being down there for that. It was it was a great day. And he really rose to the occasion. I know we're talking about Lane, but yeah. Yeah. And all four of those guys. I never got to know Fletcher super well. He was really kind of a quiet guy, but I got along fine with him. But yeah, I mean, the other three guys, you just, you feel like you just know them so well just from so many years just hanging out their locker and talking about anything and everything. So yeah, they're three all-timers. I can't imagine that kind of thing is ever going to happen again. I mean, maybe Reed, Quignon, and Coop will all be together for 10 years, but this kind of thing just doesn't happen.
I thought the other thing Lane, he was asked about, I thought his answer was very cool about potentially getting the chance to train and mentor his replacement, which is something that Kelsey got to do, Fletch got to do, BG got to do really with Nolan.
Sure.
And it's something he's really excited about if that happens. And I think there's a real chance that happens, whether it's this year or next year. I think the likelihood that the Eagles draft an offensive lineman really high is pretty likely.
Yeah. And he said, if Howie comes over and says, what do you think of this guy? I give my honest opinion. I think it's really cool. I'm not sure a lot of teams do that. And obviously it paid off with Kelsey. Kelsey watched film of Cam in college and, signed off on it. I mean, do a lot of GMs kind of do that kind of thing? I don't know. But it's cool that, Howie and his staff are not so, full of themselves that they won't ask for help from a guy who would know. I mean, who better would know if a college center can play in the NFL than Jason Kelsey? And the same would go for Lane. But the fact that Lane made it clear he wants to play 3 more years kind of takes a little of the urgency out of, like, if he sat there the other day and said, this is it, this is 1 more year and I'm done. You got to go into this draft kind of at least in the back. You're not going to reach for a tackle maybe, but, thinking that this is a real priority here. So a little bit of that urgency isn't there. But at some point, they're going to have to find the next Lane. And, I mean, I think, when you look at Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and Cam Jurgens, you found the successor to 3 of those guys. This one might be the hardest.
It might be. But like, even though you feel like you can have a little breathing room because of the runway Lane is giving you here, it shouldn't like stop them from drafting a tackle either. Because you remember back in 2013, they drafted Lane Johnson to be Jason Peters' replacement. And like that obviously never happened. He never went to the left side of the line. JP played for a lot more years than they expected. And then Lane ended up being a Hall of Fame caliber right tackle. So I think you just draft the people and then you kind of see what happens. I like, and as much as we've learned to just trust that Lane will be out there, he is 35. He will be 36 next year. And you have to be ready for that career to end whenever it does end. It might not be on his terms, which is hard to hear, but that's a real possibility.
It is. Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they took a tackle this year, but I don't feel like they have to.
Yeah, and that's a nice spot to be, not to feel the pressure to do it. But we should mention, this is a nice little segue here by me, Fred Johnson, Eagles swing tackle from the last couple of years. He leaves in free agency. He signs with the Jacksonville Jaguars on a 1-year deal. So now the Eagles don't really have that backup tackle. They lose 2 key offensive linemen this offseason. Mekhi Becton going to the Chargers, and now Big Fred going to Jacksonville. They need to replenish a little bit.
They do. And that's a big loss. And Fred played really well when what did he start 5 games this year?
Yeah, one at right tackle, four at left tackle.
One at right, four at left. Yeah, when Malad was on IR. So he surprised me. He played better than I expected. I knew he was a guy that was going to give everything he had and was tough, but yeah, I thought he was really good, and he deserves a chance to start. Obviously, it's not going to happen here, and I wish him luck down there. He's a good dude. He's another one whose career has been. I mean, he's another Stoutland product. I mean, he was a big disappointment with the Bengals. I mean, he talked about how bad he was when he was with Cincinnati, and I think he started that game against the Bengals this year, and he was talking
that was
about
his best performance. He shut down Trey Hendrickson that day.
He did, and ever since then, they've been trying to get rid of him. But yeah, it meant a lot to him to go back there and show them what kind of player he became. That was really important to him. I don't blame him. So yeah, that's a big loss, and there's some replacing to do on that O-line.
Yeah, and it wasn't like Fred was perfect. There was obviously a pretty big drop off from Jordan Mailata to Fred Johnson, but he gave you at least like above average backup level play, which you look around the league and there are some pretty bad backups, and teams kind of it goes ugly fast when a backup's in there, especially the way the Eagles like to run their offense. Like they're not trying to give you a ton of help, even when the backup's in there. So it's a big, important job. And there's not an obvious answer right now for who the swing tackle is on this team. I think the two names who are on the roster, we can even say three names on the roster. I think the top one will be Darian Kennard, who we haven't really seen much of. He was on the roster all of last season, came over from the Chiefs, back-to-back Super Bowl champion, Darian Kennard, we should mention. But he's an option. I guess Tyler Steen.
He went 3 in a row?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess he was on the Chiefs 2 years.
I don't think he played in any of them, but he's got 3 rings.
Yeah, I mean, he barely played for the Eagles at all this year. He played in that the regular season finale. That's where most of his snaps came from. But they clearly like him. They brought him in. They kept him on the 53 all year for a reason. Tyler Steen, I guess, could be an option if he doesn't end up being the right guard. He has tackle in his background. And then Brett Toth is still around. I think they've kind of transitioned him more to being an interior guard center player, but tackle's where he started in college. And I guess that's an option, but this is a spot where even if they don't draft an offensive lineman in the first round, you would think that, a day 2 offensive lineman might be in the cards.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they don't get out of day 2 with an offensive lineman, maybe 2. But you're right. I can't imagine Tyler Steen. Have we ever seen him at tackle?
A little bit. Maybe not in games, but he has at practice a little bit.
Yeah. Brett Toth's an interesting name, but yeah, I mean, he seems to be more an inside guy. He's a crazy story. We never talk about Brett Toth. He's been here since 2019? Yeah. I mean, Stout must love this kid. He
left briefly, remember. He went to Arizona for a year.
Yeah.
They claimed him off waivers.
Always comes back, and there's something there. I mean, he wouldn't still be here. So he's like one of Stout's pet projects. And he's been here longer than almost anybody on the team. So he could be in the mix. But my best guess is that the backup swing tackle will be someone who's not on the team right now. Could be Kennard. But, I mean, if they draft a tackle in the second round, you would think it would probably be that guy.
I think the most likely incumbent is Kennard, but I don't think that's the most likely scenario. I think it'll be someone they draft, or if it could happen like something happened last year where they don't draft a tackle and then a couple of days later they sign Mekhi Becton. It obviously wouldn't be Mekhi Becton this year, but it would be the equivalent of that. It would be a veteran who they feel like could fit, because it's funny when I think about it now. That's why they signed Becton. It wasn't to be their starting right guard. He was really signed as a swing tackle. I think they trusted Fred, but they wanted to bring in at least another body, and that's what they did with Becton. I think if they don't draft one, they're definitely going to go and try to sign one somewhere.
They're going to have to. Agree.
And then you have Jack Driscoll getting over injury. He's a free agent, always a possibility. We'll see what happens with him. I think that he's someone they would want to bring back when he gets healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I guess. Yeah.
Okay. With Big Fred leaving, though, Big Fred MBG out of the locker room, someone is going to have to step up to make some noise in there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They're the two, and their lockers weren't too far apart, so there was always something coming from that side of the room, kind of in the middle. Yeah, who's the next loudest guy?
Well, Chauncey's gone too.
Yeah.
Always hit or miss, but like, yeah, it's going to be a quieter locker room this year.
Nolan will make some noise.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot of singing. He's got a good voice. He's a good singer. Fred was a good singer.
It was very funny during the 2023 season. I think I might have mentioned this before, but the Eagles are spiraling. Things are going bad. And we'd be in the locker room and it's like, it's loud and it sounds like people are having a fun time. And every once in a while, someone mentioned, man, this locker room doesn't feel like a team that's like dropping off completely. And I was like, it's just Fred. It's just like you look around and you're like, no, it's just Fred talking. And he was a fun guy to have around. We'll miss him.
He was.
The coolest moment was after the New Orleans game when he got in there. He said he got emotional because it had been so long since he played and he didn't know if he'd ever play again. And he talked about he almost teared up when Saquon broke that long run. And as I'm interviewing him, all of his teammates are just behind. Yeah, Fred. Yeah, Fred. And he got like overwhelmed again. It was a really cool moment, like that all the players recognized how much he put into it. And I finally got something out of it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we'll go over some rule changes and answer a bunch of questions from you guys.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Rue, my bracket's already busted.
Really? What happened?
Louisville lost to Creighton. Those 8-9s will get you.
It's tough. Well, I don't do brackets just because I don't want to be in a position of like having to root for Duke.
Well, I would always root against Duke if that makes you feel better.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what if you have them winning? I mean, they're really good.
It's not like I'm laying serious coin on this thing. It's Yeah. Right. If I was like Brad Feinberg, I'd probably have a different outlook on this, but I'm not dropping a lot of coin.
How many brackets do you think Brad has? Do you think he just goes with
I bet he's
one?
not a bracket guy.
Yeah, that's not really his thing.
Yeah. Brackets like the ultimate parlay, and he'd probably tell you that's not the wisest way to use your dough.
Yeah, it'd be more like, the second half over under on Creighton points against whoever they play next.
For those of you who don't know, Brad Feinberg is one of our betting experts on Birds Huddle game day during the season. He has an incredible mind for this stuff.
Yeah, he's a math guy more than a sports guy, and even when he's not on the air, he's doing the show. We're not on for 2 hours. He's in show mode. He's an interesting guy. It's fun talking to him. But
yes. Rule proposals. So in about a week and a half, I'll be heading down to Palm Beach, Florida for the NFL's annual meetings, and one of the big topics every year is the rule proposals, and NFL owners vote on these things. The tush push rule change proposal from the Green Bay Packers is officially in there. Now we'll see if it even comes to a vote. A lot of times these rules will be on the docket. They'll have that meeting with the competition committee, realize it doesn't have support, and just pull it or alter it. So that's a real possibility, but it's in there. Basically, the language would take away the push element of the play. And the proposal from the Packers cites player safety and pace of play.
Pace of play.
I think the pace of play is fine as long as you don't Frankie Louvu diving over the line 12 times.
Yeah, and that's not anything the Eagles did. I mean, that's what the defense did. And player safety, the league itself came out and said there's Nobody got hurt doing this. I'll be really surprised if it passes. What does it take? 3/4 vote?
Yeah, so they would need 24 of 32.
Yeah, I can't imagine they would get that many votes even if it comes to a vote. But just the fact that it made it this far is notable. I don't know how you get rid of it when there's no evidence that it's a dangerous play.
Yeah, when I was at the combine last month, I really got the sense that it was not going to have enough support. A little surprised it made it this far, but we'll see. I'm skeptical that it even comes to a vote, because you never want to propose a rule like this. No, it's not going to pass, and then you get, 5 of 32. It's just a bad look. So I don't think it's going to have the support to change it, because look, I don't think either of those reasons they cite are legitimate. I think like the only legitimate reason would be that you don't think it looks like a football play, which is silly.
Well, I think the only legitimate reason would be if a bunch of guys kept getting hurt doing it. That doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened. And the other thing, do they announce the votes, like what the vote is, or does
they don't announce it, but we find out.
Okay. Yeah. And again, even if in the event it does pass, I think the Eagles are still going to be really good on 4th and 1 or 4th and goal on the 1. They're just,
that's the thing. I don't think a rule change would hurt them as much as people are thinking it would hurt them.
Yeah.
I think like the things about that play, if you take away the push, they're still so good at those guys up front being strong and powerful, the center using his leverage. It's a tough play on the center. Kelsey will probably tell you that. Cam Jurgens will tell you that. But then you have a quarterback who, like, Jalen gets credit for his brute strength. He's also pretty nifty on those plays. He kind of knifes in where he needs to. He has a good sense and a good feel for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they were 92% this year, I think.
I don't know offhand.
Something like that. I mean, they're still going to be, I would say they're still going to be over 80%, probably well over 80%. There might be one or two that they don't get that they would have gotten, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. I think they're still going to, and who knows, with Patullo, maybe they'll just chuck it on 4th and 1 every time.
Yeah, I doubt that.
I doubt that too. But I am curious to see how this goes once you get down to Florida.
Yeah, and if it doesn't pass this year, like, can we stop doing it? This is the second time in 3 years it's been proposed. If it doesn't, like, it, at some point, just stop doing it. It's getting annoying. For me, it's extra content, so I guess I'll take that. It's stuff for us to talk about. I get to ask everyone at the combine and then the owners' meetings. So I'll do this every couple of years if you guys want me to, but I don't know. There's no real reason to change it.
Yeah, I agree. The Eagles are just good at it, and I think teams are just jealous. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's very funny. Every time this comes up, we see the gif of the Packers trying it, and Jordan Love is just like falling over at the snap. Yeah, and I thought that Nick Sirianni did a really nice job at the combine defending the play. It was the biggest defense of the play we've ever seen from him, which is good because they should try to protect it. It's a really good play for them. It's like if they said you can't run a Saquon draw anymore, like, like this is a play that helps them win a lot of football games.
And that might have been a product of understanding that there was a little bigger groundswell against it.
Mm-hmm.
And he felt like he needed to be a little more vocal, a little stronger. And he was.
Yeah. The Eagles proposed that the overtime rule basically changes into what it is in the playoffs. So you'd have a 15-minute overtime instead of a 10-minute overtime, and both teams would get a chance to possess the football no matter what happens on that opening drive. So if, they're playing the Giants and the Giants score a touchdown in overtime, the game's not over, the Eagles would get a possession to try to do the same.
Yeah, and I'm all for it. I said that as soon as they change the rule, they should make it the rule for the regular season as well. And I love the idea of going to 15 instead of 10 minutes. I mean, 10 minutes, you got to have a team just control the ball. The Eagles could do it with the way they run.
Yeah, that's why you have to, like, if you're going to change the rule, you can't cram it into a 10-minute overtime.
Right.
Now, the downside is if we care about player safety, it's his extra time on the field.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, you're talking about a handful of games a year, and most of them probably decided before 10 minutes anyway. So I don't think that's a huge thing. But I think for competitive fairness, both teams need to get a chance to. I mean, before they changed that at all, it was ridiculous. I mean, you would just get the ball, go kick a 58-yard field goal, and the game's over. I mean, it basically came down to the coin toss. But I like this. And do you get the sense that it's got a pretty good chance to get approved?
So I think this one does have a chance. I know that Troy Vincent, maybe last month, talked about the need to revamp the overtime rules. And in that press conference, he mentioned the competition committee agrees with that. So I don't think this proposal is like out of left field. I think this proposal was done with some thought and with some understanding that, owners and teams want to change the overtime rules. Now, we'll see if it gets tweaked here or there. Sometimes a rule like this will get tweaked before it goes in, or it'll be on like an experimental basis. They'll do like a 1-year trial. And if it works, then the next year they'll vote it in full time.
Yeah, I hope it passes. Troy Vincent, by the way, I was working on my list of the top 10 Eagles defensive plays of all time. He's in one of them.
Good.
The longest interception return in NFL history. James Willis off Troy Aikman. And he goes out to like the 12-yard line, laterals to Troy, runs 88 more yards. That was in the last minute. The Cowboys are about to win the game. And, I think Ed Reed broke that record when he picked off Kevin Cobb in Baltimore. I think that might become the longest pick six ever. But two guys combining on like 108-yard interception return is pretty cool.
It is cool. The other like gameplay rule proposal is from the Lions, and it would basically a defensive hold or an illegal contact would no longer be an automatic first down. It will be a replay of down. So if it's 3rd and 17, you have a defensive hold, it's not an automatic first.
Interesting. I think I might like that.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of times it's become like a bailout penalty, and I think that's frustrating. I'm fine with. I think this is another one that could be a year trial. See how it does.
What do you think about tweaking DPI? Like, it seems like more and more teams are just chucking the ball deep. You can get a 58-yard pass interference.
Yeah, it's a smart play.
It's a smart play. Should that be a spot of
just
foul?
Remove the spot foul and make it a 15-yarder?
Yeah. I think, is that what it is in college?
Mm-hmm. I think I would be on board with that. Now, the only problem is if a DB gets beat down the field, he's going to tackle someone.
So what if you have two tiers? You have like kind of like
they can't get it right with the way it is.
Roughing the kicker and running into the kicker. So you have one's a 5-yard penalty, one's a first down 15-yard penalty. Like,
yeah, I don't like that. There's too much gray in there. And the refs already have a hard enough time calling that.
That's fair. But I mean, D-backs could do that anyway and save a touchdown. They if you're clearly.
And they do sometimes, but
yeah,
the downside is you could have a 40-yard penalty.
Yeah. I just think there's too many pass plays that it's 3rd and 28. You just chuck it deep. Half the time, the D-back's not even like, it's just like incidental contact. The flag goes up, 58-yard penalty. But it's something to look at, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the ideal fix is.
Yeah, I don't know either. I agree with you. Sometimes you're like, man, that was a 40-yard penalty. Like, what are we doing here? The only other rule change I wanted to hit on with you was a bylaw proposal, also from the Lions. They've been busy. That would basically allow
a lot of free time after losing to Washington.
Yeah. Basically, it would change up the playoff formatting in the conferences. So a wild card team could be seated higher than a division winner. So like this year. Okay. Let me
I don't like that.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let me just finish So this year you had a situation in the NFC where both wild card teams, Washington and Minnesota, had better records than the teams that won the NFC South and the NFC West.
Yeah, I just think I don't see any reason to take away the advantage of winning the division. I like the fact that those are the top seeds. I don't want to change that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any reason other than just you don't like
I
it?
think there should be a premium on winning the division. You know, that's the only reason. I think
Okay.
I'm more impressed because I mean some divisions just are going to be tougher. So I mean it can be more impressive winning a division at 11-6 than being a wild card at 12-5. I like the way it is.
Okay. I heard a really good point. I think it was Mike Florio talking about like this one probably won't pass because owners like to know that there's a 1 in 4 chance they can host a playoff game.
Interesting.
When you
Yeah.
put it through that lens, it kind of does make sense. That's revenue that they would potentially lose.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Yeah. All right. Those are the rule changes. We'll see what happens in a couple weeks down in Palm Beach. We talked to a few of the Eagles players this week. In addition to Lane Johnson and Brandon Graham, we met with Zack Baun, Azeez Ojulari, and Adoree Jackson. Real quick, anything from Zack Baun that really stood out to you?
Just what he said about I like what he said about the defense. He talked about how, look, we still have a lot of really good players. It's tough to see these guys leave, but he's, we still have a really good defense. We have good players. We have good young players. They're going to add players in the draft, and there's no reason we can't continue to be a great defense. I think that's important to hear.
No, it absolutely is, and he's now one of the most important pieces of this defense. Not that he already wasn't, but we know it going into this next year. I asked him about room for growth in Vic's defense, and it's a fun thought because, like, we've talked about this before. I don't think the numbers can get much better. He was incredible in 2024, but in terms of understanding the nuances of the defense and like furthering it even more, I think there is some growth there. I don't think he's reached the full depths of a Vic defense.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way he could have. And yeah, I've had a couple of people ask if I think what he did last year was a fluke. And he was making plays from the first day of OTAs through the Super Bowl. So, like, it was not a fluke. He's a really good player. But yeah, when you're in Vic's defense, I think there's always going to be room for growth in year 2, year 3. I mean, I would expect him to keep getting better. I mean, he's still new at this. So I like that he said that.
I once asked Carson Wentz what he thought about people saying Travis Fulgham was a fluke. And that feels like that was 40 years ago.
What did he say?
He said, no, he's done it for a month now. And that was the end of it. Yeah.
He was so good for 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Azeez Ojulari, had a chance to chat with him. I really think this was a great signing. And he seemed pretty darn happy to be here. It makes sense. Like, if you're a free agent and you got to sign a 1-year prove-it deal with someone, why not a team that you've seen the proof is in the pudding? They've gotten guys deals off of these 1-year contracts. They should be good again. I think it's a wise place for these guys to show up.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, you have a real opportunity to have success as a team. And I mean, for me, he's just got to stay healthy. And I mean, gosh, it's such a bargain. Like, he could easily, if he plays 14, 15 games, he could be, no reason he can't be a 7, 8, 9 sack guy and really have a big role in this team. It's going to be about staying healthy. And I think a lot of the questions to him in that call were about his health. And he knows that's the big challenge. You learn how to take care of yourself. And, he's got to do it. I did play 11 games last year, and that's, so he didn't miss the whole year. I think he played 11 the year before, 7 maybe the year before that.
Yeah. So he went 17, 7, 11, 11.
Yeah. So, we'll see. Again, it's one of those moves that there's no downside, but I like his approach. I like the way he talked. I mean, he's got high expectations of himself, and he's been a good player when he's been on the field. It's just a matter of staying on the field. So he knows that, and he knows that if he can stay healthy, it's going to pay off in a big way. Like, if he has a healthy season and has 8 sacks, he's going to make some money next year. So Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Mekhi Becton and Zack Baun coming here on 1 year, relatively cheap deals, and they both got paid.
Yep.
And with Ojulari, a lot of it wasn't like it wasn't like a knee the whole time. It's not like a chronic issue.
Right.
It was a hamstring, a calf, a toe. Like it was a bunch of different stuff. And that does mean he's injury prone. Like that's what the label is there for. But I don't think it's like a chronic issue, which to me is somewhat scarier.
Yeah. I don't know which is worse. If you had like 4 knee surgeries, then you're worried about that. I like the fact. I mean, he's only 24. So
we'll turn 25 soon.
Turns 25 in June. Georgia guy, 2nd round pick a few years ago, 21. I like the move. I can't wait to see him.
The 7th Georgia defensive player on the roster.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. And he wasn't. He left school before those other guys, but he's close with all of them. He said, especially Nolan Smith. Obviously, they were in a position room together, and they will be again.
Yes, they will.
Adoree Jackson. We chatted with him. I loved his answer to your question about the pick 6 on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, so he had a 79-yard pick 6 off Jalen in a game the Eagles won in 23. Longest pick 6 against the Eagles since Patrick Robinson had one. So they just keep signing everyone who has pick 6s against them. But I asked him like what that meant. It was his first pick to date, his only pick 6. And he said, "Well, I was happy at first, but then I got to the sideline. I was getting oxygen. I needed oxygen because I just ran all those yards. And Eagles had a 3rd and 20, I believe it was, and they completed a 32-yarder to AJ Brown, and then they went and scored on the next play. I think DeAndre Swift scored, another Georgia guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said it didn't mean anything because they scored right away. Eagles took like a 9-point lead on that touchdown, and they won the game. He said, I couldn't really enjoy it because we lost. I like that. I like that mentality. Tells you he's a team guy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all we had for those. I want to get some questions in before we wrap up this pod. If you have a question for us, it's eagleeye@nbcuni.com. That's eagleeye@nbcuni.com. First one is from Chris. Hey guys, your pod is always my number one go-to pod. Love the dry sense of humor. And on that note, you mentioned that BG is the only one from the Eagles to have 2 trophies at his retirement. Then jokingly played along that someone from the 48-49 seasons could have done it. Well, I'll just play along and answer for you. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't have 2 trophies. The old NFL championship trophy was the Ed Thorpe trophy. And like the Stanley Cup, there was only one, and it got passed around each year. So BG is definitely the first. By the way, there's a cool little story about the trophy, how the Vikings lost it, and years later it was found in the Packers Hall of Fame storage closet. I love neat NFL stories like that, and I thought I'd pass it along. It is cool. I did some reading about it. No one knew where the trophy was for a lot of years, Rube.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
Like,
and apparently maybe they just never gotten it in Minnesota.
Interesting. I'm sure.
What do you think about that, though? Like, it's like the Stanley Cup. You just have one.
I don't know what I think about it. I kind of like it.
It's cool. I mean, the Stanley Cup's the best trophy in sports.
Huh. Really?
What's better?
I'll have to think about that. But
the only one that comes close is not like a team trophy. It's the Heisman.
Heisman's up there. Jay Berwanger. But yeah, I kind of like the idea of just having one. But then I guess you could always make a facsimile to put up in the NovaCare, and
I mean, that's what ends up happening anyway. You get all of them made. Like people get replicas made.
Oh yeah, can you do that?
Yeah. So what the how they have the names on the Stanley Cup, those rings come off, I believe. And I think they have, I was at the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I believe they have like the extra rings that have come off.
What do you know about Ed Thorpe?
I did read about him, and I kind of forget who he was now.
He was a noted referee, rules expert, sporting goods dealer, and friend to many early NFL owners. Ed Thorpe. So, yeah, the Ed Thorpe Trophy. I might have to learn about Ed Thorpe. It was rediscovered in 2015. This is recent.
Yeah.
Wow.
By the way, it was discovered in the Packers Hall of Fame, which is a really cool museum at Lambeau Field. If you ever have a chance to go to Lambeau, go check out the Packers Hall of Fame.
It is really cool. Only one team that won an NFL championship from 1934, which was the first year of the NFL championship game. No, that was later. The NFL champion those first few years in the 30s was just best record. And the last NFL championship game was 67. Only one team that won an NFL title is not engraved on that trophy, and it's the 1960 Eagles.
Why aren't they on there?
Nobody knows. There is a space reserved for them, but their name has never been engraved on the trophy. I feel
like that's an easy fix.
Just
now that we know where the trophy is.
Maybe the Packers are so mad about the tush push that they won't let them. They've got the trophy.
And like back in 2015, they were like, you know what? I don't know why I get this feeling. We're not going to like the Eagles in a decade.
I think that's very possible.
All right. Next one from Dan in Detroit. Dave and Rue, big fan of the show. I have lived in the Detroit area since 1998, but have remained an Eagles fan and wear my Eagles merch proudly around all these new Lions fans. Question on Howie's approach to the offseason. Most teams after a Super Bowl try to keep the band together the next season and try to repeat. While it almost never works, you have to try it, right? This year, it seems Howie is remaking the roster, thinking more long-term, and maybe putting more risk into getting back next season. Which approach do you think has the best chance to get us to Super Bowl win number 3? Thanks, and keep up the great work.
Yeah, I think the best chance to have sustained success is to do what Howie's doing. And there's still a lot of really good players on this team. And there's no reason they can't make another run at something. Like if some of these young guys are able to fill in some of the spots for the guys that left and they get contributions from a couple rookies, there's no reason they can't. But it also affords you that in 2026, you're going to be good. In 2027. So if you stay young, but keep that nucleus together, and they've certainly signed a ton of guys to long-term contracts, you can really be good for a long period of time. And I think that's what the goal is with Howie. It's to be able to come back next year and make a run at something, but also be good the year after that and the year after that. And it's hard to do, but I think they have a chance.
Yeah, and I think some of it is just natural based on the complexion of the Super Bowl team. You look back at 17, it was a bit of an older team relying on veterans. This team was younger. And so I think it's more natural to think about a long-term plan. And also a big part of this is the Eagles in 17 didn't have a big quarterback contract. They were doing that with Ben Carson on his rookie deal. Eventually they would pay him, but in a way, like it's nice that the reliance has already been on young players because the Eagles have paid their quarterback big money. It kind of like naturally feeds into this long-term plan a little better.
That's a good point. That's definitely true.
All right. You want to do one more?
Yeah.
This one is from Marty. As an Eagles fan in Austin, Texas, you guys are my lifeline to keeping up on developing Eagles news, stories, and analysis. But I'm currently on a 2-week trip in southern China, and most social media and Google and my podcast platform are blocked here. Desperately, I opened up Bing on a Safari browser and searched for Rube's observations. Lo and behold, at the end of his latest article, there were 5 or 6 podcasts that I was able to listen to here in Kunming. My question concerns the moves that look puzzling at first, such as trading Chauncey Gardner-Johnson or likely parting ways with Dallas Goedert. When you guys look into the crystal ball, can you read Howie's mind to project how he intends to replace their production? Will he move up in the draft to get a starting tight end or a safety? Will he package picks for a trade? Recent years have taught me to trust Howie, even though at first glance, I don't understand what he's doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, Goddard's still here. So for now, I do think they're going to draft a tight end fairly high. They added a couple bodies, and we'll see how they how they fit in. They still have Calcaterra, but as far as tight end one, I don't think they have that. And I think he's going to try to draft that. But whether Dallas is here or not, I think he's going to try to draft the tight end of the future. I think CJ was more non-football reasons. I would think they're going to try to replace him at first with Sidney. See how that goes. And that's the one move I'm not totally on board with. Unless there's stuff that we don't know about. I mean, he's certainly a free spirit and a different personality, but you just won a Super Bowl with him. So it's not like he did any damage in the locker room or anything. So I don't totally get that, but I think Sidney's the next man up, and we'll see where they go from there.
I'd be shocked if there's not at least competition for Sidney.
I agree.
I think that it could be a trade, but it's also like you think back to last year with Becton. They don't draft a tackle. They sign Mekhi Becton. I think that signing this year could be Justin Simmons. He's the name that makes a lot of sense. He would want to play here. We know Vic likes him. Even though the Eagles haven't really brought in any Vic Fangio players other than Perry Nickerson, right? Like they just haven't brought in when they signed Vic, you thought, okay, they're going to bring in all these Vic guys, and they haven't really done that. He hasn't cared, but a veteran safety like Simmons would make sense to me down the line after the draft.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think with what they have currently, I think Sidney gets the first crack at it, but we'll see what they add, no doubt.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what the question was, like, how do you think they'll replace that production?
Appreciate the effort in China. He was really determined to check out a couple podcasts, and he found a way.
Yeah, I like that. And thanks for the question. If you have one for us, it's eagleeye@nbcuni.com. And if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Rube, any final thoughts?
Yeah, two things. We didn't take any questions last week. I only took a couple today, 2 or 3, maybe 3. So I think we should make an effort to get to more questions on our next pod next week.
Yeah, Brandon Graham won't be retiring next week, so I think we'll be able to do that a little better.
Also, I just wanted to say just very quickly, Rick Goldstein, who I work with, covered the Sixers for us at the Burlington County Times and Calkins newspapers for forever. He died this week, and just a great guy, really good reporter. I learned a lot about how to cover a beat from him. I was covering high schools, and he would sit next to me, covered the Sixers forever, and really learned a lot just watching him. And great guy, good singer, and he'll be missed.
Very well put. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.